E3 2017 has come and gone, and with it, a bunch of new trailers were released. So it's that time of year where we tune up the old analysis machine and get ready to take a closer look at some of the big new games. And one that got me really excited was the announcement of a new Kirby game for the Switch. Kirby's been on a bit of a roll lately with Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, so what kind of surprises does the pink puffball have in store for us this time around? Well, let's see what secrets and hidden details the analysis machine has found. We'll start with the levels, as there's only a handful that were really shown. The game will stick to a 2D plane with 3D models and backgrounds, just like the past few Kirby entries. Our first level sticks to the tried and true Green Greens inspired design. There are swirling clouds in the background along with cube-shaped bushels of leaves in the trees. In addition, some pieces of the ground appear rolled up with large holes in the center to the point where we can see trees' roots growing through them. At another point, we can see more of the background with water flowing through the middle of one of the rolled hills, but no clear indication of the water's source. I guess this is Dreamland after all, or is it? We don't actually have solid confirmation of that yet. The next level has a somewhat knitted appearance based on the foreground. There's the fabric-like texture of the flowers and other patchwork adorning the stage. And in the background, many of the hills seem to have tea cozies on top. It certainly gives it a unique look considering Kirby himself doesn't have a different style like in Epic Yarn or Rainbow Curse. A later scene better shows off that the background is filled with rainbows, adding to the soft and happy aesthetics. There were only 2 more levels shown during the trailer though. The first appears to be in a sandy cave with a crescent moon-shaped hole in the background ceiling, allowing bluish light to filter in. But the main source of light seems to be the torches that line the foreground. The other is a beach level with palm trees in the foreground and islands and the ocean in the background. There's really not too much else to note about the levels themselves, although another portion of the trailer actually shows off the world map. From what we can see, it seems the world map will loosely reflect what Kirby sees in the level itself. We can see plains, the square trees, plateaus, and even mountains. The only features missing from the overworld is the tea cozy hills and the beach, which are likely found in another section of the world map. What we do know is that Kirby can freely roam around this map, similar to how Yoshi could in Woolly World. And just like in that game, it doesn't mean that Kirby can enter any level in any order. Most of the levels are marked with a yellow star in an orange circle with an orange and yellow border. But there's one with a yellow star inside a blue circle and a red border, which seems to indicate that it's already been completed. But there's one more level to point out. Just to the right is an orange circle with a yellow border and no star. We believe that this indicates that it's an extra level and a secret exit must be found in the previous stage, or maybe all the items in this world must be found to unlock it, just like the 3DS games. But there's definitely going to be at least some exploration in this Kirby game. The big draw here though is Kirby himself, along with the enemies he'll encounter and the abilities he'll be able to use. Now, there are a few standards to be found here as far as the level design. Kirby can collect stars in order to earn extra lives, there are switches to activate certain things, though we don't see what this one does in particular, food will act as health, and the level will end with these special doors. Yep, this is definitely a Kirby game, and we see that again with some of the returning enemies. Not all of them provide abilities, of course, such as Bronto Burt here, Chip just a little bit later, and then the stone-faced Kabu and the jumping Bouncy. All 4 are pretty prominent returning enemies, with Chip becoming a more popular choice after his appearances in both Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot. Of course, there's the return of the Waddle Dees as well, but that was never going to be a question of whether they'd return. The first enemy we see that provides Kirby with an ability is Blade Knight, another enemy that commonly makes an appearance. This naturally allows Kirby to become Sword Kirby, but it's not long until we're thrown a curveball in the form of Cleaning Kirby, an ability that hasn't been seen since Dreamland 3 on the Super Nintendo. Now, the most common enemy that this power was obtained from was the Broom Hatters, marking the only time they've actually given a power. They seem like the most obvious answer to who will make an appearance in Kirby Switch. However, looking at Dreamland 3, this power could also signal the return of KK, Buki-Set, and even the mid-boss Haboki. New enemies could also give the power, but Kirby games do love to draw on the past, so we'd expect at least one of these other enemies along with Broom Hatters. We then see Cleaning Kirby in action as he uses his broom to juggle this brand new orange-colored enemy before tossing it away. Unfortunately, because this new enemy is only seen during this scene, we don't really know what it's capable of, as this piece of cloth on the left may be part of its attack. That cloth may even indicate that this new enemy is how Kirby obtains the cleaning ability, but there's no concrete proof of that yet. What's really interesting though is Cleaning Kirby's running attack, which actually summons Nago, one of Kirby's animal friends from Dreamland 3. The move turns Kirby into a washcloth as Nago pushes him forward, which both clears the pile of leaves and takes out the Poppy Brothers Jr. And as we'll see later, this does indeed mean that Bomb returns as an ability as well. But the appearance of Nago is especially interesting, mainly because there's no other sign of the animal friends, so they're likely just cameos related to Kirby's cleaning moveset. After all, in Dreamland 3, each ability only had one thing they could do, rather than the more complex options introduced in Superstar. So in order to bring cleaning up to speed, a new moveset needed to be created, and why not pull from the past by having Kirby temporarily work with different animal friends for each maneuver, while also inventing new ones, since there are only 6 friends in total. We next see that the water ability returns as well, making its first appearance since premiering in Return to Dreamland. In that game, it was obtained from the Water Galbos, Pluids, and the mid-boss Water Galboros, so they could all come back as well. But as we see later, there's also a brand new enemy that gives Kirby water. It's called Dribbly, and it seems to be some kind of water snake, or maybe even a tadpole based on its tail. Returning to where we left off, we see another classic enemy in the form of Sir Kibble, and once again we see that Cutter returns as an ability later on. But that's not the interesting part here. Instead, rather than destroy it, Kirby tosses a heart at it, which appears to be a new way of recruiting enemies to your side. This was last seen in Superstar, where the technique was a bit different. There you took the ability from the enemy and then pushed a button to eject them and create an ally controlled by either a friend or the computer. The concept here is pretty much the same, though there are a few differences. For one, when Kirby first brings out his heart, a smaller heart appears above Sir Kibble, and we'll soon see this again with Poppy Brothers Jr., Burning Leo, and every other enemy Kirby recruits, meaning that there's a handy visual guide to who Kirby can have join him. Although it does make us wonder what would happen if Kirby threw his heart at an enemy without that symbol. At any rate, this recruitment also causes a physical change to Sir Kibble. His helmet is given a yellow cutter-like visor with Kirby's face that even has the small wings on the side. So it's still Sir Kibble, but with a Kirby flourish. And the same thing happens to Poppy Brothers Jr., where his hat changes to more of the pointy wizard hat that Kirby wears when he has the bomb ability. And this happens again with Burning Leo, who returns from Superstar and Mass Attack to grant the fire ability. The biggest change to a recruited Burning Leo is that his color changes to green. So all 3 of these new allies reflect the color of the player controlling them, and we see an example of this when Burning Leo is yellow rather than green. So it's time for a crazy theory. What if Kirby's other Kirby friends have lost their bodies, and this adventure is all about getting them back? But in the meantime, he's able to throw their hearts at certain enemies in order for the friends to possess them and help Kirby on his quest. It would explain the new process of recruitment, as well as why the enemies change to reflect the actual Kirby powers, or at least the color of Kirby. It would tie into the theme of possession that was so prominent in Super Mario Odyssey, not that these games are linked in any way. Still, it is one idea of context for all of this, if the game even cares about making sense, that is. Continuing on, we see the return of Mr. Frosty as a mid-boss, meaning Ice Kirby is back as well. Again, something that will be confirmed later in the trailer. As far as we can tell though, Mr. Frosty doesn't seem to have any new moves, at least not yet. But Kirby and his friends do, or at least they have a returning ability. Kirby and his allies are able to merge their powers in order to create combination abilities, similar to the idea from both Kirby 64 and Squeak Squad. The first one we see is the Fire Sword, which is closer to the one from Squeak Squad than Kirby 64. This allows Kirby to slam the sword into the ground to create a burst of fire that engulfs the returning puppet Waddle Dee. But what's even cooler is that we see an exclamation appear above Burning Leo before a series of explosions occurs within that fire. This could mean that combo attacks are possible, leading to a whole new sense of cooperative gameplay to really show off what everyone could do. In a way, burning Leo further enhances the attack. But another ability combination we see is Bomb and Water thanks to Dribbly. This is a brand new combination though, as the water ability didn't exist in those previous games. Its design is also closer to the ideas from Squeak Squad, as the bomb is covered in flowing water, similar to the Ice and Thunder bombs from that game. This bomb is certainly effective against these new fire enemies though, taking them out in a single explosion while also destroying their shields. Now, some of you may be worried that the combination powers will be a bit more conventional like they were in Squeak Squad, but that's definitely not going to be the case. After all, the next combination ability we see is thanks to the returning Chili, who, by the way, now sports the frozen hat of Ice Kirby rather than his own cap, and he merges his powers with Stone Kirby to form the Curling Stone ability, back from Kirby 64. The demonstration of this power shows Kirby being quickly launched ahead to take down a line of other Chilis, a Cappy, and a set of Kabus. But just as this scene ends, we can spot Rocky just to the right. It makes sense that he's here since Stone is obviously an ability. But there's more hidden details to this scene. Slowing it down shows a series of hearts surrounding Kirby, as Chili's animation suggests he's actually the one who launches Kirby forward for another team move, much like the one with Burning Leo. The Curling Stone is then shown to freeze the enemies while launching them forward. However, the Cappy somehow avoids being hit by Kirby directly and is instead instantly destroyed by the Ice Trail, even becoming a banana health pickup. The next scene not only shows that Kirby has the beam ability, pretty much guaranteeing that Waddle-Doos are in the game, but it appears that some areas cannot be accessed unless you have enough partners, something that should be pretty easy to manage. However, throughout this trailer, every partner has been different, so that may actually be required. It would make it pretty easy to break through that stone if you could just respawn the same enemy enough times to fill the quota. But this is Kirby, so it may really be that simple. Maybe the trailer just wants to show off as many abilities as possible. Specific abilities will be required though, as you can work together in order to find secrets. In this case, an actual player is taking the role of Parasol Waddle Dee, colored yellow based on Kirby's influence, and using the Parasol ability to block the flowing water and allow the fuse to reach the explosive barrels. But this also indicates each ability will have some kind of special heart function, as a heart appears as Waddle Dee makes the Parasol extra large. The question is whether these can be accessed when a player isn't in control. Will the computer be smart enough to recognize puzzles and help you solve them? That could even affect what's hidden beneath that loose collection of rocks that's about to be blown apart. If computers can work with you for puzzles like this, it could be a hidden door or collectible. If not, then it's likely an extra life and stars, but unfortunately, we don't actually get to see it. The last bit of teamwork we see involves this new platform which allows the team to form a rolling circle, as well as instantly destroy any enemy in their way. It's nothing too significant, but it does emphasize the team aspect. And that goes for the fight against Wispy Woods yet again. He's a staple, you can't escape from the woods. And he definitely has at least one new attack, as we see him drop tons of apples on the party, though it doesn't seem as if all of them are damaging, as the characters lose very little health, especially compared to Wispy himself. More interesting is the final set of abilities shown during this fight. Wester returns, meaning Whip Kirby does as well, while Kirby himself has the Hammer ability, likely implying that Bonkers is back as a mid-boss. However, there might also be a new enemy, since we don't know for sure that mid-bosses can be recruited as allies. Kirby's hammer is also imbued with water, meaning that there's another combination closer to Squeak Squad. But let's return to Wester really quick. The chaos of the scene makes it hard to see, but there is a small change to Wester's design, as his hat now has blue stars around it, just like Kirby with the whip ability. More importantly, Wester's whip has been combined with Spark, implying that not only is Sparky back as an enemy, but your allies can combine their special abilities as well. It's not something that only Kirby can do. In fact, even Sir Kibble's cutter has been combined with fire to create a fire cutter. However, we wouldn't be surprised if these combinations can only happen when playing with friends. Speaking of combinations, Fire and Cutter should have made the Sword of Fire from Kirby 64, but that may have been deemed redundant for this game since we already have the Fire Sword. After all, the sword ability wasn't in Kirby 64, but abilities from that game likely will make an appearance. There are only 7 main ones in that game: Burning, or Fire, Ice, Spark, Cutter, Bomb, Stone, and Needle. All of these except for Needle have been shown in Kirby for the Switch, so we could definitely see other returning combinations besides the Curling Stone. Could we even combine Spark and Cutter to form the Double Blade Laser Sword once again? And will we see other unique combinations that form something brand new, or will most of the new ones be more along the lines of Squeak Squad's Fire Sword, Ice Bomb, Ice Sword, Thunder Bomb, and Thunder Sword? So far, that is the more common type of combination. While we've only been shown the basics so far, there's a lot of potential to Kirby on the Switch. Popular ideas from the past are returning with new twists and possibilities, and who knows what other ideas the developers will concoct. We personally can't wait to see more of this game. Of course, if we missed anything, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Kirby, more E3 trailer analyses, and other things gaming.